Welcome back. Now tonight, the separate arrest of teens who are nabbed partying, smoking and drinking has once again brought forth debate on handling teenagers. Teenagers who say they all did what they did for fun. We speak to counseling psychologist Dr. Susan Gitau, who is also a lecturer at the Africa Nazarene University, and John Wilson Njoroge, who is the author of the book Father to Son. Good evening, and thank you for making time for us tonight on TV47.
Thank you.
Welcome. I'll be back.
All right, it may sound simplistic, Dr. Susan, but who is to blame for the misfortunes that we have seen lately amongst young people, teenagers for this case?
Well, I like to say everyone is to blame, but the biggest blame goes to the parents. Because you're the first custodian of the safety of your child, and you're the first person who should know where your child is, what your child is doing, or what your child needs. I like also to say that the society is also to blame because these children are just copying us. It's monkey see, monkey do children. And they are actually saying things that we say as adults, whom I like to say are dysfunctional. Like, I'm bored, I go to drink. I'm bored, I go to do stuff, you know. Or I say that maybe my parents are not good enough, they are not safe for me. And so I go looking for something as an outlet to what I'm going through. When I also talk about our big mother, that is the leadership of the day, I know COVID-19 hit us so badly, all of us. But I think we didn't really think about the children. We thought about their safety, and so we took them home quickly because we did not want any child infected by COVID-19 in school, but we never thought where they were going. And right now, it's proof that the best parent has been the teacher. The best parent has been the pastor or the teacher also in madrasa, because these children are no longer going to the mosque, they're no longer going to church. Now they are at home, but the parents are unable to contain their own children. So it's also telling us that as much as the teacher was also let go, as the children were let go, the teacher should have been involved. And these teachers are within our communities. There is one teacher I know who follows her children all the way to the streets of Thika Town. And I know she's watching me, Mother Gene. Thank you so much for the way you love those children in Tiandutu. She knew that my children, because they never have food, they are likely to go to the streets. So she follows them there.
Dr.
So
Susan,
I guess we
Dr. Susan, we will come to the role of the teacher and the teachers and the society in general in shaping the young ones. But when asked why they did what they did, the teenagers replied and saying that they were bored and they did it to have fun. 8 months out of class, surely they were bored, weren't they?
And I'm telling you, they were genuinely speaking the truth. Just like you, if you're put in one box for those 8 months and you're waking up to the same routine, adults don't get bored. They suffer from burnout most of the time. They feel exhausted, disinterested. So for these children, I'm saying, if they said we are so bored, we're going to have fun. Remember, they are in a stage where their mind is so malleable that any twist, anyone who says, let's go this way, they have not yet stabilized between the way they regulate their emotions and the way they regulate their thoughts. So they have not developed what we call rational thinking. And this is where the work of the parent or any nurturer or caregiver or life skills coach is supposed to come and help them. So that anytime I want to do something, I can first reflect and ask, the action I'm taking, is it to my own benefit or it's going to destroy me? When they also said that they were going to have fun, that's what adults say. Oh, nyama choma this weekend. We also say, let's meet at this joint. So these kids have copied us, you know. So if there's anyone to be blamed, it's us, the adults.
Fair enough.
Before we go to these children.
Fair enough. Let me bring John Wills to the discussion. John Wills, when you say that a dysfunctional society always thinks that the vulnerable are the main problem, what do you mean?
I think it's when I think about children, and my question is, who is the adult here? Because when this was reported, we were all agitated. And our energies were directed to these children and people saying that they should be beaten, they should be dealt with the way we were dealt with. But it's simply because I think these children just exceeded our dysfunctional state. So they did what we didn't expect. So we are dysfunctional to a certain level, and they overperformed. And that's why we are getting agitated. And the reason why we're actually attacking these children, it's simply just to ease our guilt and so that we can feel good. But I would say that the society is dysfunctional in different ways. Because if you look back, especially like now in Nairobi, these children, they don't have places where they can play. Most of the playing fields, that's where our flats are sitting. And so the question is, how did we push them away to that point? And I would also come back and say that these children, we subjected them to a process where we are churning them just to follow a certain route. But now that route was disrupted. So they are now in a place where it's like a vacuum. So we actually need to ask ourselves, like now in education, what is our philosophy in education? And when we are raising these children, what is our role in ensuring that these children have conscience and they know who they are, where they are, and what they are doing, or rather what they ought to do?
All right, John Will, still talking of a dysfunctional society. One of my favorite points from your book, Father to Son, comes actually from page 15, where you write, and I quote, that the level of corruption in any society and in any nation is directly proportional to the level of fear instilled by father. Do you find a correlation between the two, corruption and moral decay?
Actually, that's the root of our problem, because like now recently, Rin Gamau, she was fighting for this, for a playground for the children. And as I said, I think we were having a conversation earlier, and I said that she was not doing it for herself. She was doing it for these children because she's thinking about the future. But now the challenge here is we as men, we perpetrate pain in the society. And when you look at the positions of leadership, we have people who are not capable, we have people who are corrupt, and we have people who are not God-fearing. And so everything they do is self-preservation. And so we have very few people who are concerned about these children. And the other thing is that we subject these children to market conversations and preparing them for jobs and all those things. But we don't put in thought on what takes place in their developmental stages and what they need. And so I feel we ignore the child's voice, even in development of a state. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Susan, I'm looking at the very invitation to the party that some of these teenagers attended. And just for purpose of our audience, it says, and I quote, they were told not to tell anyone where they were going to because, quote, adults will ruin the fun. They clearly know who will ruin what they view as a fun.
They know it's the adults, they know it's the parents. And this is what I say to all parents. If your child cannot tell you even some of the most shameful, dirtiest secrets, then just know you're not in their space as a parent. I'm saying this because most of the children that I receive in my practice, they tell me I could not tell my mother, I could not tell my dad. He is never there. And my mom, before you even tell her what you want to tell her, she's already shouting at you, she's already quarreling you. I would rather keep it to myself. Or when I tell my friends, they listen to me. You can imagine when we talk about a blind man leading another blind man. So these kids, I'm telling you, and there are people who say that I really protect and overprotect children. There's even somebody who sent me this video that has gone viral. I think it went viral a long time ago, like Willis is saying. This is a granny or a grandmother really whipping a girl and has actually stripped her naked. And you tell me, and somebody tells me, this is what used to be done to us. Can you do the same to this? Do you know what that means? That is sexual trauma. Even if she was not penetrated by anyone, you can imagine, and the video is gone viral. And you know Google does not forget. It will keep circulating that. Then somebody tells me, do that. So these children, they see us as terrorists. We parents, we adults. What can we do to make them feel safe with us? What can we do to make them trust us? Because even when your daughter tells you, oh, Mami, I was written for a very lovely letter here, can you read? And we even read messages and we go up. And I like what Wilisa said, and I see he's a young son over here, son of Kenya. I love what he's saying, because when I was a high school teacher, now I teach at the university, they would come and tell me stories. I would sometimes tell them, let's talk about sex today. What do you know about sex? And they would tell me myths about sex, and I would be there listening to all the nonsense, but I would now put sense into them.
But Dr. Susan,
I just made it very easy.
Dr. Susan, you are one among few who will listen to such a conversation from a teenager, from a young person. Is it not the case that many a times it is a one-sided communication from the parent to the young one?
That's it. They tell you do this. They tell you I have bought you books. I have bought you this and this. I expect good grades. So even when they are telling you I've done this, I expect this, it's about them. And today, if you want to be a good parent, you must do whatever you do for the best interest of the child. It's not because I missed medicine school, then I push my child to make that medical doctor, and then they come and do the worst that you have ever imagined. Pressure. We don't give children voices. And you know, at this time, I love that voice, and I think Willis, I'll quote you, that they overdid us. And so we are shocked. We are shocked that 13, 17-year-old can do what we do as adults, and nobody asks us a question. They do what we do. We find condoms in the car. We find anything, even outside the door. But when it's kids, everybody is just so enraged. Let me tell you, I have never talked with such emotions ever on TV, but I think until the child is safe, I will never stop talking. Why? I am a trauma therapist, and trauma is one of the experiences that anyone can go through. And when you go through trauma as an adult, that is post-traumatic stress disorder. If you go through trauma as an adult, it's easier to resolve. But when you go through trauma as a child, some of these things will follow you, and almost for the rest of your life.
All right.
So when somebody tells me about a child, yes, Abubakar.
Because of the interest,
have I lost you?
Because of the interest of time, let me ask John one final question. There are those who argue, and this has been debated, that parents should instill discipline. If a child does something wrong, there are consequences attached to that. Beat him or her, cane him or her. That worked traditionally. Does it work now in a modern parenting setup?
We've had that heated conversation early in the day, and I've had people tell me that we are not like these children because we were beaten. But one of the questions I'm asking people is, Kenya is losing about 608 billion shillings annually to corruption. So we who are beaten, we are the corrupt ones. And so the question is, if we are saying we were not like them and our parents could not actually allow us to do some of these things, then the question is, why are we corrupt? And the other thing is that I would want to mention is the parenting patterns that we have today. And these actually influence the child negatively or positively. And it's okay to get bored, Abubakar. Right. It's okay to get bored. And so let us just have a candid conversation with these children and allow them to know that we can care. And the most important thing, let us nurture conscience in our children.
All right, John Willis Njoroge is the author of the books Father to Son and Brave Hearts. Dr. Susan Gitau is a counseling psychologist, a lecturer as well at the African Nazarene University. Thank you for making time for us tonight.